What's up, everybody? This is Mike LePond from Mike LePond's Silent Assassins, and welcome to my rock and roll room here as we do another edition of Mike LePond's Storyteller. Got my guitars here, got an amp in the back here, and I got a picture here of possibly the greatest time I ever had in my life when I played on the same stage with Mr. K.K. Downing, one of my biggest heroes ever. And that was an amazing show because I had K.K. Downing on one side, I had Ross the Boss on the other side, and it was awesome. I can't say anything more about that, and I'm sure you guys could relate to what I'm saying. Okay, so today, as we talk about Whore of Babylon, we're going to talk about the recording, the engineering, the producing, all that kind of stuff, which is kind of cool. I'm going to try to give you a real insight of what we do. So there's kind of a formula for what I do when I record the Silent Assassins records. I've done basically the same thing for all three, so I'm going to kind of run through it. So the first thing I do, because keep in mind, I don't have my own home studio. I was never really good at that stuff. I would like to learn in the future, but for now, it is what it is. I don't have anything, so I need outside help with everything. So I'll write a song. I'll write the music, right? So basically, any normal person will just go down to his home studio, demo it, put the drums in and all that stuff. But I can't do that. I don't have the capability. So I have the whole song in my head, and I figure out what the BPM is going to be, the beats per minute. Okay. Then the next thing I do is once I get that, I give a call to my good friend CJ Sosha over at Le Chateau Bow Wow in Watchung, New Jersey, and then we start to lay it down. So what I'll do there is I'll lay down guitar scratch track, bass scratch track to a click. Okay, so now I have the song out of my head to a click. Okay, next thing I want to do is then I go see my good friend and bandmate, Mr. Michael Romeo, and he's going to program the drums at this point because I don't really understand drums all that well. So, he'll say, okay, what kind of a drum beat do you want for this song? And I'll just start flailing my arms around, and I don't even know what I'm doing, but somehow he knows what I'm doing and he understands what I'm trying to do, and he programs it. And he's one of the best drum programmers I've ever heard. So I've got him in my corner, which is awesome. So he'll program the real drums to the scratch guitar and the scratch bass. And he's got his click track, so he's got everything ready to go. Okay, next step. What is the next step? So now the next step, what I like to record is the real rhythm guitar. So I do 2 tracks of rhythm guitars. I think that's really important. It makes the guitars sound really fat. Now at this point, we don't get the real guitar sound yet. We just kind of use a sound that's good enough, and then later on we're going to reamp it. So I'll lay down the real rhythm guitars. Now sometimes when I'm recording the guitars, because I'm not a professional guitar player, sometimes I'm playing something maybe a little on the sloppy side, or maybe my approach is a little wrong. So in a case like that, again, Michael Romeo is there. He'll lay it down for me and make it sound nice and smooth. Okay, so now we have the real drums, we have the real guitars. So next we're going to do the real bass. Now when I record bass, usually what I do is I kind of just record direct. Sometimes I record, I'll do 1 track direct, 1 track with a sans amp. Actually, I think that's what I did for Whore of Babylon. So, oh, and I forgot to say, Romeo is recording me through all this. So I'll have one track direct, one track dirty, and what we usually do is just blend them when we mix it, but one performance. So I'll go in, I'll do the bass. Not too much really to say there. I just kind of lay it down. I've been playing bass all my life, so it's not a big deal. Okay, so now we have the real bass, real guitars, real drums, and now it's time for orchestration, keyboards, and that kind of thing. And this is where a lot of times it gets, you're really getting into the song to make it special. So again, Michael Romeo is there to help me with all the keyboards, and I tell him, some songs I want to make the chorus really epic and grandiose, so I like to use strings, or sometimes I'll use pipe organ, and sometimes I use Hammond B3 organ. So depending on what song it is, I'll kind of use that. I like to use a lot of choir also, kind of like at the very end of a song, to make it really, to just take it to like the level 10, as high as it's going to go. Really bring it home nice. For some of the medieval tracks, I try to find different instruments, like maybe an accordion, or a flute or something like that. Just different little things to give each song a little flavor. And Mike has a great instrument library, so he's got all these sounds. He's got all the latest versions of the sounds, all top shelf, state-of-the-art stuff. So it's really awesome. So we'll do that stuff. Then we'll lay in some of the acoustic guitar, all that kind of stuff. Little things, maybe some signature guitar parts, just little things. So after the cake is kind of almost made, now we're ready for the vocals. Okay, so we'll have Alan Tecchio come in. And the way I like to record the vocals is definitely 2 tracks of vocals. Doubling them up. It makes the vocals sound so much fatter. Except if it's like a ballad or something like that. If it's a ballad, I think it sounds much more intimate if it's just 1 track of vocals. And then once he lays down all his vocals, then we get into the harmonies, the vocal harmonies. Vocal harmonies are so important. So we'll lay them in. Depending on what song, maybe we'll do 3-part. If the song is a little more on the bluesy side, I like to do 2-part. But if it's more like epic and grandiose and classical, I like to go 3-part. Now, during all this process, I have to play somewhat of the producer a little bit. I don't like doing it because I don't really think I'm a great producer, but because it's, my album, I have no choice. I got to do it. And of course, again, Michael Romeo helps me with all that stuff. So then at that point, we got everything recorded. It's all done. So now the next thing we want to do is we want to get it mixed and mastered. So for Whore of Babylon, I used the same guy that I used for all my records. His name is Eric Rachel. And I just love his mixes because he makes the mixes for Silent Assassins sound like it's a live power trio. And I love that. And he understands that for these records, the bass has to be definitely up in the mix. Unfortunately, a lot of metal albums that come out, you don't hear the bass loud enough, and it's kind of just sits there in the mix, and it's not really prominent. But for this kind of stuff, I want it to be like, just like I was saying, a power trio where you hear every instrument really loud, almost like a heavy metal version of the Moving Pictures record from Rush. Now for the bass sound on Horror Babylon, Eric did something that I had never even heard of before, and honestly, I think this is the best bass sound I have ever gotten. So what he did was, he took my direct track, and then he had some sort of plug-in of some dirty Ampeg kind of sound. He mixed that in, but then what he also did was he put a sub bass on my bass. Now this is something that might not be all that audible, but you could feel it. And just all this to get together gave my bass like this monster fat sound. And I can't wait for you guys to hear it. I am in love with the sound. It's awesome. Basically, the guitar was also reamped, like we were talking about earlier. Romeo had some really great sound from his Kemper, and we reamped it. So the guitar sound and bass sound are ready to go, and Eric really doesn't have to do all that much. He's got a great guitar sound to work with. Now he's got a great bass sound to work with. As far as the drums, again, I don't really know too much about drum sounds and that kind of thing, so I have to depend on Eric Rachel for that. But again, he came through with like this monster drum sound. I mean, this record is really fat sounding. It's really live sounding. It's really, really awesome. I couldn't be happier, to be honest with you. So then at that point, Eric also mastered the album. Again, I have to rely on him for the mastering. I don't know too much about it, but I have 100% confidence in Eric, and he just did an incredible job with the mastering. And then basically there we had it. Now, before we go, I'm just going to check my notes here and see if there's anything I left out or anything I should tell you guys. I'll just kind of run through a few things. On the record, I played 4-string bass and 8-string bass. And in one of the songs, I had the 4 and the 8 together. So that was really cool. So that's kind of a note. Alan Tecchio, of course, he did all the lead vocals, except for one track called Champion, which was done by Sarah Tietz from the band Mind Maze. Lead guitar playing was Lance Barnwald and Rod Rivera. Now on one song, actually, Michael Pinella from Symphony X played some Hammond B3 for me. He played some piano for me. So that's on one track. I think you guys will love that. You'll know it when you hear it. Trust me, it's awesome. It sounds just like Deep Purple. It's awesome. Let's see if I'm missing anything. Got it. Yeah, and basically all these great people came together. You had Eric Rachel, Michael Romeo, and all these great people helping me. And honestly, I think this is one of the best sounding records I have ever played on. So that's kind of the inside story for Horror Babylon on the recording, producing, engineering end. I want to thank you guys. I'm hanging out in the rock room. Springtime. I'm in a good mood. I'll see you later.